Hey guys, so I wanted to make a video today talking to you about struggling with anxiety, depression, body dysmorphia, and dealing with like the side effects of toxic relationships and whatnot. So a lot of us out there struggle with anxiety and depression and things like anorexia, bulimia. It's not an easy thing to talk about. I know personally, I was only recently diagnosed with body dysmorphia approximately 2.5 months ago, and I haven't really talked to anybody about it because I still feel partially like I could have done more to prevent it, I guess. I've always struggled to love myself as a person, I guess just because of how loud and outspoken I am. And to those who know me, know how loud and outspoken I can be. I've always found it hard to live in a world where you can give as much love as you want and you're never going to get that same love back. Because I've always been a very giving, outgoing person when it comes to other people. I love making people feel good about themselves. I will always go over and above for my friends when I can. Whether it be just going out of my way to get them a coffee, or hearing that they've had a shitty day, going and buying them flowers, or just showing up at their house when they need me, or picking up a phone call and calling them, or taking them for dinner. I always try to go over and above for the people I care about. I've also learned recently that it doesn't matter how much of yourself you give to somebody, you can't expect them to love you back, even a little bit. And growing up, that's a hard realization to have, because I was always taught growing up, be the best you can be nice to everybody, treat others how you want to be treated. But it still shows that no matter how much of this and how little of that you are, at the end of the day, the only person that's got you is you. And you can't expect other people to feel the same way. Growing up having anxiety and depression and not knowing it is hard. I feel like if I had gone in before I got diagnosed in grade 11 with depression and anxiety, I feel like a lot of things could have been different. I feel like I could have handled a lot of things differently. For starters, I probably could have learned that because I have anxiety, I talk about 100 miles a minute, which I really struggled with in middle school, doing speeches and public speaking. So there was a lot of instances where I had to do one-on-one time with teachers, getting them to try and pace me and slow me down. Now, had I had known that I had anxiety, which causes that, I probably could have learned some techniques to calm it down, to change it, to do something about it. But I remember being younger, there was a girl in my middle school who was on pills for depression. And all of us were kind of just like, what? Like, she's not sick and she's on pills? That's weird. Now, probably 10 years later, I get it. I see why that girl was on pills, and honestly, I'm pretty sure last time I saw that girl, she's somewhere out in BC. She's gonna be a doctor. Like, that girl's got it together. Like, good for her. But I remember in middle school, we were all really weirded out when we were like, why is that girl on medication? Why is she on pills if she doesn't have a cough, or her stomach doesn't hurt or something, or she doesn't have a heart problem? And I remember, I think that's the age that I learned really what stigma was without even knowing the word stigma. Having depression has always been something that I kind of teetered on the edge of thinking I had until I was diagnosed 4 years ago. Depression can stem in anybody. It doesn't matter how good your life is. And this is something that was really hard for me to learn and cope with, because a lot of people that I tell I have depression, their first reaction is, well, what's so shitty in your life that you have depression? Depression isn't being sad. Depression is a chemical imbalance in your brain where all the happy juice and all the sad juice just aren't balanced. So all your happy juice is down here, all your sad juice is... See, there's a little bit of a difference there. Taking these pills, there's 2 different kinds. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I know there's 2 different kinds because there's 2 different halves of your brain. The one pill will balance the one side, the one pill balances the other side. Not everybody has an imbalance on just one side. Some people have an imbalance in 2, some people only have it on this side, some people only have it over here. Some people have it so it's not large enough to actually have to take meds. So those are the people that are diagnosed with depression, and the difference between that and clinical depression is the imbalance is so large that you can see it on a brain scan. I've had all these things done. I've had the oral and verbal tests for depression and anxiety done. I've had brain scans. I've had blood work and stuff like that all ran. It's crazy the kind of tests they can run on you to figure these things out. Now, having depression means that I struggle a lot with having energy to do things, which I think has a lot to do with how I deal with relationships. I've always struggled holding any kind of healthy relationship in my life, whether it be a friendship, boyfriend, anything like that. I'm a very loud person and I get angry very easily. My emotions are always like this. They're never stagnant. That's why I smoke weed. Anyways. My depression has gotten to points where I will physically go through my Snapchat at like 5 o'clock in the morning because I haven't slept and delete like 50 people off my friends list just because I haven't talked to them in a couple months. Or I'll go on Facebook and completely just remove a bunch of people. Go on Instagram, unfollow a bunch of people, deactivate my accounts temporarily. Because I physically feel like nobody wants me around anymore, so I just start withdrawing from the world to that point. I'm also a very big talk. I will fight anybody, I like to say. But anybody that actually knows me knows that I wouldn't actually fight anybody unless I was hit first or provoked. Because I am 5 foot fuck all, and I weigh about 100 pounds, soaking wet, with 2 bricks in my pocket. So me fighting somebody probably wouldn't end well. But I talk a big talk, and I say I would hit a lot of people because when I was younger, if I didn't stick up for myself like that, there was a good chance I was actually going to get beat up. There was lots of times in gym class, things happened in the change room, girls would hide my clothes, girls would call me fat, girls would sit there and taunt me and poke me and pull at my skin, and I never went to a teacher. I never told my parents. I'd come home crying, and those were the only times that I'd really tell my parents what happened. I never told my parents that coming home from school, there was a couple girls that would follow me and beat me up, and that's why I had to become friends with one of the girls that lived down the street from me, so she could protect me when I walked home. Couldn't tell my parents that there was 2 ways to walk to school, one down the street and one down a walking path. I could never take the walking path unless my parents were coming with me, because there was a group of girls that houses were down that way, and they would come out of their way to throw rocks and sticks at me. A lot of that I thought had to do with because of who I was as a person. I thought it's because I was ugly. I thought it's because I wasn't good enough. I wasn't as pretty as the other girls. I wasn't as funny as the other girls. I didn't go out and do things like the other girls. I didn't go on big fancy trips all the times like all these other kids did. So inside my heart, I thought that I deserved how these kids treated me when I was younger. Looking back now, I realize they're all a bunch of fucking assholes, honestly. Fuck almost everybody I went to middle school with. But, in high school, things kind of changed. Because out of the 3 high schools in Brandon, I got to choose which one I went to. And besides me and 3 other kids from our graduating grade 8 class, everybody else went to Vincent Massey. We all went to Crocus Plains. Going to Crocus was a whole new world for me. There was like 1,100 kids or something like that, and I only knew 2 of them. So that was a pretty sick, fresh start, except for the fact that my crippling anxiety and depression really held me back from making any new friends. So, after a few years of bouncing between approximately like 3 small friend groups, I went into the doctors one day or I guess the counselor's office in our high school, and I said, hey, I really do think that there's something wrong with me. So they brought the school division psych in, and they evaluated me, and they were like, well, Savannah, this is what you have. You have clinical depression. You have high anxiety, which means that it doesn't really matter when and where I am. I'm always having a minor anxiety attack. I don't talk this fast because I want to. I don't like when my brain runs 1,000 miles a minute, but it does. When I have a major anxiety attack, watch out. That shit's not fun to deal with. And then I said, okay, cool. I have anxiety and depression. That's it? And they were like, no. We think that you might struggle with a couple other minor mood deficiencies, including borderline personality disorder and a minor case of bipolar. And I was like, oh, well, what are those? And I learned that borderline personality is almost a branch off of bipolar or OCD. Borderline personality has OCD and bipolar tendencies, such as I cannot really control my mood swings. I cannot control that I'm happy 1 second, and the next it's like my whole world's falling apart, and I can't control that. My anger, it flares up really easily, something really small. Like I drop my pen on the floor, pick it up and drop it again, boom, that can set my anger off, and I can't do anything about that. Something I learned about that is that in high school, kids like to talk shit, and I have always been one to easily just snap, and I go off. I will call people names beyond people calling other people names, and I will say things and embarrass these people and literally belittle them until there is nothing left for me to belittle of them. I've always known that behavior isn't healthy and isn't normal. But when I was diagnosed with borderline and bipolar, it kind of gave me an insight as to why I do things like that. I have since then been working on it. Some people know that I still snap quite easily. I tend to go on social media when I'm having one of my miniature blackouts and freak out on people, and it's not okay. Afterwards, I'll go back and I'll erase it, and I'll just be like, oh shit, that's embarrassing. But it's things like that that happen when I've hit that point because of my borderline and my bipolar and my anxiety and my depression. Where I snap and I black out. It can last anywhere from 5 minutes to 5 hours that I've blacked out, and I won't remember anything afterwards. There's lots of times I get into fights with people that if it wasn't for it being over text, I wouldn't have remembered it happening because I was so angry. Now I can be one of those people that takes pills to help balance the chemicals, that balances the emotions I go through. I've tried that stuff. It's not for me. I'm not saying it's not for everybody, but it's not for me. When I went on the medication, it completely made me a zombie. I woke up not feeling myself. I felt like I couldn't feel emotions, period. I was miserable. They weren't helping me like I thought they would, so I stopped taking them. I've been on momentary tranquilizers where it sedates you for approximately 10 to 15 minutes, or the higher the dosage, the longer it sedates you. I've tried all those and they don't work for me. I've heard great things about those pills from a lot of other people, but I've also heard worse things than I've gone through from other people. So for me, I self-medicate with, I do a lot of breathing techniques. I do a lot of grounding exercises. I do a lot of writing, which at one point I was sharing with people, but in the most recent months, I've been sharing less and less of because of the content of what I've been writing. So when it comes to self-medicating, I use marijuana. I know a lot of kids my age do use marijuana to self-medicate. If there's one thing that I can say about using weed as a medication, do not mix it with other medications. And I cannot stress that enough. If you are already on an antidepressant, do not smoke weed to help your anxiety. If you are already on a sedation technique because of your emotional behavior, do not smoke weed to try and counterbalance that. It will not work. I cannot stress that enough. When the doctor tells you when you are on antidepressants to not drink, He is not saying that for jokes, people. He means do not go out of your way to get drunk on this medication. It will completely counteract what's happening. Do not smoke weed on that medication because it completely counteracts what's happening. So, I mean, like, if you are one of those people that knows that you have a mental health problem and it's been diagnosed and you're trying to work through it, just know that I'm here. I support you. I know that you're doing your best to get better for you. But remember that dealing with all of these mental health disorders means that you have to care about yourself and you have to put yourself first in some situations. And you can't expect others to care about your mental health. You got to make sure you do. If that means that you have to leave toxic relationships and bad relationships in your life, do it. Don't keep yourself in a toxic place just because when you are down, they're there for you. I know it's hard, and I know that I really don't know how many people would actually take my advice on that because I did stay in a toxic relationship for so long. But if you're in one of those relationships, just know you can leave. It will get better. Being without that person sucks, but being without them and being better is a whole lot more satisfying. I know that sometimes dealing with mental health problems, it feels like you're really alone and it feels like nobody cares about you. But in all reality, there is a lot of people that, like, you could shoot them a message or shoot them a call any time of the day and they would pick it up just to talk to you. I've recently learned that with a lot of girls that I have following me on my one Instagram account. There's some people that kind of know what happened to me, and I've had girls that I've never met, or I've only met a couple times, reach out to me and tell me their story and tell me that they want to make sure that I'm okay. Sorry, getting all choked up here. That's not cool. It's good to know that no matter how alone you are, there is people that care. There is people that are there for you. There is people that love you. Just because you are a little bit broken doesn't mean you are incapable of love. But you can't go searching for love in the same places that broke you or are breaking you. So, if you're out there and you're struggling and you know that you have something wrong up here, diagnosed or undiagnosed, know that you have somewhere to come and talk to, and that if you need somebody to help you, that I'm here. Or I'm sure you have lots of friends, whether you know it or not, that are there for you too. There's online resources. There's phone numbers you can call. There's crisis centers. There's resource centers. I promise you that you're not in this alone. And dealing with it may feel like you are a lot, but you're not. Okay, everybody. Have a good day.